Hey, Saturday is the first ever World Chimpanzee Day. The Jane Goodall Institute says it's taken them years of planning to create this day to encourage people to learn about chimps and participate in conservation efforts. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Goodall when she visited the Twin Cities earlier this year. During our conversation, I asked her about the chimps' endangered status.
In most of the countries where they live, they're highly threatened, endangered. The Gombe chimps wouldn't be there if I hadn't gone. And the way that the Jane Goodall Institute works to conserve chimps now in 7 African countries is to work with the local people to improve their lives, to work with them until they become our partners in conservation. Because if the people on the ground don't care, then there's no point in creating national parks, because at some point they'll just break the barriers.
The Jane Goodall Institute chose July 14th as World Chimp Day because it's the same day Dr. Goodall first stepped foot in the Gombe Stream National Park to visit the chimps. Of course, it wasn't a national park then. That's where she did her research. You can see my full conversation with her on KARE11.com.